The lawsuit I filed was against the Secretary of State and other appropriate defendants, and it stems out of a March 2020 consent settlement that the Secretary of State entered into in litigation with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party was represented by Perkins Coie. You might also call Perkins Coie the Hillary Clinton law firm.
Just yesterday, Clark County officials threw out an entire race. They decided that this one particular county commissioner race was too close and the fraud was too widespread. How are they so certain that that fraud didn't bleed into all of the other races on that ballot?
No, we are not allowed to do routine updates without having to go through a recertification effort, but we do routinely give guidance on how to best secure systems.
Hey everybody, it's Everett with Ohio for Freedom. Mike Dewine and a rigged election. Yeah, there is a connection. It's nuanced. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the president's executive order. So let's get started.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be long.
Okay, so the title is a little provocative, admittedly so, but it's justifiable, and we're going to explain that as we go. But going to get to that in just a moment. Opened up with a clip from attorney Lynn Wood speaking to John Frederick. John Frederick is with the Virginia Star, I believe, and Lynn Wood resides in Atlanta, Georgia. Then we played a clip from Rick Grinnell, who is working on the president's team. He was appearing on the ACLJ program, Jay Sekulow, and talking about in Clark County, Nevada, where the Democrats there have discovered fraud. What about all those omnipresent people? There's no such thing as election fraud. Well, here the Democrats have admitted it, but they only want to overturn or redo one race, a commissioner's race, and they want to leave all the other names on those ballots and just leave them alone. It's totally crazy. We'll talk about that. And then I played a clip of Eric Coomer with Dominion Voting Systems, and if you haven't gotten the lowdown on this guy yet, prepare to throw up. It's gross, it's shocking, it's awful. We're going to explain that, but I want to get rolling here, and I'm going to explain my title in just a little bit, but I want to start by playing a clip of attorney Lynn Wood as he is describing the basis for the lawsuit that he has filed in the state of Georgia against the Secretary of State. Let's take a look at it, and then we'll talk about it.
I've only filed in Georgia because I filed with standing as a Georgia voter who voted in person.
Got it.
So I had to go through an authentication proceeding that was more stringent than the absentee ballot procedure set up by Raffensperger. Mm-hmm. That's a violation of my equal protection.
So the essence of the lawsuit that Lynn Wood has filed as a private individual, he is in consultation with President Trump's lawyers, but this lawsuit is filed on behalf of himself, and it has to do with equal protection. As someone who voted in person, he had to show ID. His signatures had to match the signature of his original voter registration, whereas somebody that's voting by mail, it could be anybody signing these things. And so it's unequal protection under the law. That's the essence of the lawsuit, and it sets precedent for things that are happening in other states across the United States. So he's going to explain that. Let's play that, and then we'll talk about it.
Mm-hmm. But I'll be able to set the standard overall that the election was unlawful. That's going to happen, and it's happening in other states. It's happening in Pennsylvania. It's happening in California. And I would venture to say that any state where some legislature did not make the change, but a governor or a secretary of state made the change, it's going to happen there too.
He's going to be able to set the standard for cases in other states having to do with unequal protection. And when these cases come up, the court will be forced to deal with the fact that these procedures, these mail-in ballot things that were added at the last minute that were instituted by governors or secretaries of state are unlawful, because under the United States Constitution, the rules, the laws governing elections by state, those laws are set by the legislature. And I love the way that Lynn Wood pronounces legislator, and he talks about legislators. It's pretty cool. I love the English language. But the point is that really, if the Supreme Court is going to be honest and stick to the Constitution, every one of these states where the governor or the secretary of state has changed the way that voting is done, that is unconstitutional. And of course, our Supreme Court is going to be very reluctant. They don't want to get that involved in our elections. But if push comes to shove, if they have to honor the Constitution or not honor the Constitution, I'm praying and betting that they're going to honor the Constitution. And so I'm going to explain my title for this video. And for those of you that don't live in the state of Ohio, some other part of the country, maybe you're not even in the United States, you need to understand one thing. We here in Ohio live under the most tyrannical, dictatorial governor of any Republican governor in the United States. Our governor, Mike Dewine, falls just short of Gavin Newsom and Governor Cuomo in New York. Just today, just a few hours ago, we were hit with a 10 o'clock curfew for no reason whatsoever. Our hospitals are not overflowing. Our governor is in bed with the global medical mafia. He has shown that from the very, very beginning. And so, to explain my title, here's where I'm going with this. The Supreme Court is going to have to deal with these states that have conducted elections in an unconstitutional manner. Now, Ohio was not one of them. Ohio was not one of them on November 3rd. But Ohio set precedent, and anybody feel free to email me, send me if I'm wrong. But our governor, Mike Dewine, was the first governor in the states here to take it upon himself to ignore the state legislature and change an election, because he did that back in March. When Mike Dewine and Naked Frank got together and said, you know what, we're going to change the date under the auspices or the justification of COVID, and a judge in Franklin County said, no, you can't do it. Governor Dewine did it anyway. So, in the same way that I believe that Mike Dewine has set a precedent, being a Republican governor and bringing all these draconian measures and all this fake garbage pseudoscience. Here in Ohio, if you didn't know, in early March, we had 100,000 cases. That was doubling every 6 days. Well, that was complete hogwash. Never, ever happened. But that's the tone that he set. That's the road that he's been going down. And so, yes, I credit Mike Dewine for setting the precedent, for signaling to other governors and other secretaries of state that you can do whatever you want with an election, and you don't have to pay any attention to the legislature.
There's corruption at the local, state, and national levels in this country, and I think you'll find that it goes back to what people don't want to talk about. Mm-hmm. This is the communist playbook.
Those are some pretty stout words, but Lynn Wood is a man who's used to dealing with very stout words. He is the attorney that recently won a huge settlement from the Washington Post and also from CNN on behalf of Nicholas Sandmann of the Covington Catholic Kids. So he's not going to say anything that is going to open him up for legal action. He's not going to say anything that he can't defend. And almost forgot, before I leave the subject of Lynn Wood, if you remember from the first clip that we played, that this action of changing election procedure in the state of Georgia came out of some kind of legal action from the Democrat Party and the state of Georgia, and the Democrat Party was represented by the law firm Perkins Coie. And Perkins Coie is the law firm that Hillary Clinton used. She used them to pay Christopher Steele for the fake, phony Russian dossiers. So this has just got creepy action all over it. and I wanted to make sure that I included that in there. So I want to switch gears here, but I've got to just say one more thing about this governor. I'm going to put up on the screen this latest order. This draconian curfew, I feel like we're living in Victoria, Australia. No offense to anybody from Australia, but good grief. Our governor is out of control, and I knew this would happen. I knew that if he thought that Joe Biden was the winner, that would give him the green light to go right back in the Bill Gates direction. But I've got news for our governor. You are going to look very, very stupid when Donald Trump is sworn in on January 20th. And you remember that I told you to. Okay, I want to play a clip from this gentleman, Eric Coomer of Dominion Software, and we've got several. And if this is a trail you haven't gone down before, get ready to get creeped out. Reading from an article on citizenwells.com, Citizen Wells News, and we'll start right here. In a stunning interview conducted by Michelle Malkin, Joe Altman, FEC, Faith, Education, Commerce, United founder, reveals how he infiltrated Antifa and how during a conversation with Antifa members he discovered Eric from Dominion was allegedly part of the chat during the week of September 27, 2020. And here is one quote that Eric of Dominion said in that chat with Antifa members. Eric Coomer of Dominion, Trump's not gonna win. I made effing sure of that. Trump's not gonna win. I made, pardon my language, effing sure of that. Where did that quote come from? This interview, and I have posted the link on ohioforfreedom.com. Go to today's blog, the 17th of November. And if you watch any interview this week, this is a jaw dropper. So Michelle Malkin was interviewing a gentleman from Colorado. His name is Joe Altman. He is the founder of a group, FEC. It's a conservative group, and this guy Joel Altman is in cyber data. He's a tech guy. He's a data guy. He's a cyber guy. He's also a vet, and he knows how to research. And he was talking about this Eric Coomer, and some of the things from this interview that you're going to learn about Eric Coomer is that he is a vice president with Dominion Software. Now, over the years, his title seems to have changed a couple of times, but primarily he's involved in cyber security. Although his resume has been brushed up and scrubbed over the last couple of days, right now it might say that he's a vice president of marketing, but it didn't say that 5 days ago. He's a major shareholder. This guy has a PhD. He also owns several patents in the software industry as it relates to voting. But this gentleman, Eric Coomer, is as Antifa as it can get. Now, Joe Altman, who has cyber skills galore, has been able to get into his social media, YouTube, Facebook, and in that interview with Michelle Malkin, he had 84 screenshots that he could have chosen from. I'm going to let a couple of them play, but the best way that I could describe it to you, other than sending you to that video, is if you could go to Washington just a few days ago, where hundreds of thousands of patriots, probably 1 million, gathered in Washington, D.C., and if you probably know that as people were heading back to their motel rooms, heading back to their cars, how even women and children were attacked by Antifa members. Think of the way those attacking Antifa members would talk and behave themselves, and you've got a pretty good indication of this Eric Coomer guy. And this Eric Coomer is involved in a company, Dominion, that their software is used all over the world and in something like 28 states. And so you've heard us talk before about algorithms. And so when he says he's not going to win, I've made blanking sure of that, that gives you a pretty good idea. And ever since that interview came out on the 13th, it's surprising that no major media has talked about it. After all, Michelle Malkin, she's no stranger to national media. I mean, she's huge. Her face is frequently seen on cable TV, and yet nobody has touched it. That's kind of interesting. But ever since that interview came out, Mr. Altman has received death threats and so forth, and you listen to him, he's fine. He's well armed, and he's not afraid. But also since then, all of Eric Coomer's social media has been scrubbed, and his resume has been scrubbed. I wonder why. Maybe there's something there. Just want to show you how they're covering for this guy right now. This is from Heavy.com. Eric Coomer, Dominion Voting Systems VP, pulled into election fraud theories. You come down here, Dr. Eric Coomer, Director of Product Strategy and Security and Vice President of Dominion Voting Systems, had the service that has been a hub for conspiracy theories around the presidential election. Many conservative pundits, conspiracy theorists, along with the president himself, have pushed the unsubstantiated claim that Dominion altered the election results. I think it's kind of interesting when you come down here. They want to say that Jack Nicklaus debunked this claim for the New York Times. Look at this quote from the New York Times. The Dominion software was used in only 2 of 5 counties that had problems in Michigan and Georgia. Well, there's just one problem with that. Just one of many sources that tells us that Dominion software is actually used in more than 5 counties. The Republican Party notes that 47 counties in the state use the same software. There's just no way I can describe to you how creepy, how off the rails, how sociopathic this Eric Coomer is. I so strongly encourage you to find that interview. It'll open your eyes. But please remember that this guy is involved in the programming and software that's used in multiple states and multiple counties, and all of his social media has been scrubbed in the last 24, 48, 72 hours. So this guy, Eric Coomer, has been outed. His name is out there. He was so bold and brave, but people have found him out. And the cool thing is that people all over the cyber industry, the good guys, are smoking out the bad guys. And I want to conclude talking about this executive order that the president signed in September of 2018. I'm going to take you into the website and just hunt and peck just a little bit, and then we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to wrap up. Just a real quick peek at the president's executive order on imposing certain sanctions in the event of foreign interference in the United States election, and that was issued on September 12, 2018. First paragraph, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. I want to show you that it deals with the unauthorized accessing of election and campaign infrastructure or the covert distribution of propaganda and disinformation. I'm going to read the last sentence of the first paragraph. I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with this threat. This is Article 2, Section 2 rather. All property and interest in property in the United States that hereafter come within the United States, or that are hereafter come within the possession or control of the United States, person or following persons, are blocked and may not be transferred, paid, exported, withdrawn, or otherwise dealt in. And then we're going to read part of Section 9. Let's read this pretty thoroughly. Those persons whose property and interest in property are blocked pursuant to this order, who might have a constitutional presence in the United States, I find that because of the ability to transfer funds or other assets instantaneously, prior notice to such persons of measures to be taken pursuant to this order would render those measures ineffectual. Now here's the kicker. I therefore determine that for these measures to be effective in addressing the national emergency declared in this order, there need be no prior notice of a listing or determination made pursuant to Section 2 of this order. I know that got a little wordy, but I wanted to read it right out of the executive order. So I'm going to try to break that down just a little bit and boil it down to redneck for you. The president signed this in September of 2018, and he definitely anticipated that there would very likely be some computer malfeasance in the future. And so they are able the president is, with the head of Department of Intelligence, that would be Ratcliffe, and others. But if they determine that, I'll call it, malfeasance has taken place, everybody involved is up for grabs, and they can be blocked. I've listened to a couple of attorneys talk about that, and they talk in terms of being able to seize things and seize assets, and so their expertise is beyond mine. But I wanted to read you those sentences from Section 9 that states very clearly that if individuals or entities have been identified as being involved, the president can move instantly, doesn't have to give any advance notice. And some people seem to suggest that that could even include news media outlets that have disseminated this propaganda and disinformation. So where that could lead is anybody's guess. So I'm going to bring this in for a landing. So much going on. I mean, you've got mail-in ballots, you've got backdated ballots, you've got counting of ballots where there were no Republican observers, and you got a lot of malfeasance going on in cyberland. The president is not caught flat-footed. So please, I have encouraged everybody to remain encouraged. I am encouraged. I think it's going to be an exciting and a fun ride. So be of good cheer. Keep up the fight. And until next time, God bless you. God bless your family. God please bless us here in the state of Ohio. And God bless the United States of America.